Title: Former Enemy and I Share the Dorm. Author: The Shining Copy. Ancient wears the present. Ruan King Mu, the young master of the demon sect, is cruel and bloody. The only thing Ruan King Mu didn't expect was that after his death, the one who fought for him to the end like crazy and helped him kill the enemy was his mortal enemy, the young hero Qin Yuan. As soon as she opened her eyes, Ruan King Mu walked into the green campus, and in front of her was a table full of mathematics, physics, and chemistry, and a ruthless scholar was walking past the window. Highland jade tree, sword eyebrow, and phoenix eye, you can see his eyes, still the same as in the previous life, like a life and death vengeance. A few days later, rumors spread, the poor gangster Ruan King Mu in the poor class is crazy, publicly grabbing the school grass. Qin Yuan, grabbing other people's school uniforms. Looking and touching, so happy. Ruan King Mu, blushes and ears red, I owe him a lot in my last life, I really just want to check the goods to see if they are right with my previous life. Ruan King Mu, wait, you really don't remember me? I can help you in my last life, woo, calm down, let me go. Qin Yuan, for a long time, what? Ruan King Mu, Qin Yuan, I'm your uncle, I've helped you snake venom. Qin Yuan, face expressionless, I don't remember, why don't you try again? In front of this life, the years are quiet, and there will be no more battles. Content label, Chiang past life. Sweet text. Campus search keywords, protagonist, Ruan King Mu, Qin Yuan. Supporting roles, Fu Songhua, Fang Li. Others, one sentence introduction, first kiss and first love for you. The temperature in midsummer is hot, and the electric fan in the classroom is fanning hula la, bringing in gusts of hot air. Experiment 3. Middle School, Senior 2, 9, Class. Senior 2 dogs are not eligible for the full summer vacation, and the school starts in mid-August. Today is the first day back to school. One time. I'm going to die. Whose English summer homework is done, can I contribute? I have a full set, Yuan Jingxu from the second class of PEO class, 20 for a single subject, 100 Yuan for a full set. A small boy shouted loudly, here is a set? You can't buy a bag. At a loss, you can't be fooled. The boy behind him kicked his chair and roared, bitch, why don't you rob the bank? The one who sold the homework was called Bai Jing, and his fingers were flying, and he was simultaneously sending information about the sale in the QQ group of 500 people across the class. He didn't look up, nonsense, this is the second homework of the whole grade. I also have a cheap one here. At the end of last semester, the whole grade is the 19th, and the whole set is 88 Yuan. Do you want it? Then I want the 19th, a single subject in physics. My grades are so perfect, how embarrassing. The other boy did not shy away, and came over to discuss with him, I will buy a single mathematics subject, and then we will share it. Okay, that's all. The classmate glanced at Bai Jing's mobile phone screen and exclaimed, Emma, Xiao Bai, you are very busy with your business. If you win the prize and win the prize, you can buy and sell with one hammer. Bai Jing smiled humbly, you have to bring the source to share with you, and you can't prevent data sharing like you, and you can't make a lot of money. The junior monitor took a few remaining elective intention forms and walked to the last few rows. Is there anything else you haven't got? Raise your hand. I got it, the squad leader worked hard. The boys replied with a smile. The small monitor of class 9 is called Tang Tian. She is usually soft, with a few cute little freckles on her cheeks. She is very attractive to boys. Face. In the noise, in the last row by the window, a boy was lying on the table, motionless. At first glance, the wrist was surprisingly white under the sun, the slender fingers were curled up, and the light blue blood vessels on the wrist were looming on the cool-toned skin, as if transparent. Beside his desk, a pair of steel crutches stood aside. The squad leader hesitated for a moment, then tapped the boy's desk in a low voice, "Ruan King Mu? Wake up, there is a form to fill out." The boy who was lying on the table moved and let out a vague nasal sound, lazy and loose. When he raised his head, his half-squinted eyes were a little confused, with a suspicious reddishness at the corners of his eyes, staring at her in a daze. But in the blink of an eye, I came to this inexplicable and strange world. It was early summer around me, the green plums were fully ripe, and the spring flowers were crippled. And he, from the notorious little master of the demon sect, Ruan King Mu, became a high school teenager with the same name and surname, similar age and appearance. Wake up in the intensive care unit, the original owner's heart has stopped suddenly, and his mind is still severely damaged. After the inexplicable recovery, no one knows that the dead body has been replaced with a core. It's just that every night, I still dream of those things in my previous life, the days when my soul drifted after death, and the appearance of that person who was covered in blood and collapsed. I can't figure it out. The Qin Shaoxia, who has a bright future and a long-standing reputation, obviously takes him as an enemy, and the two have fought for their lives and fought for Tat more than once or twice. To avenge him, what the is going on? Although she doesn't want to be sentimental, Ruan King Mu still thinks that this person's heavy hand on the second son of the Tang family is probably for him. Because when he died, he was poisoned by the Tang sect first. The knees of both knees were also smashed by the Tang sect guy. Although he didn't snort to death, at that time, it was really painful. A few years ago, if it's true, I will give you justice, it's not even an oath. Take your own life? He didn't even understand this. Squad leader Tang Tiantian stared at his dazed expression and was stunned. She had been a classmate for a year, but she was not impressed by the boy named Ruan King Mu in the back row. I was bored and lonely, with the lowest grades and no friends. Hair is always a bit long and eyes and face are often covered. I vaguely feel that he is good looking, but after all, weak and introverted people are not welcome anywhere, and it seems that not many people pay attention to him. The boy's eyes changed from a reddish sadness to a clear and sharp look in just a short moment. The boy straightened up lazily, stretched out his thin wrist, and took the watch handed over. "Thank you, monitor." Student. Last semester was nearing the end, Ruan King Mu had a car accident. It was said that it was very serious. She was admitted to the hospital for emergency treatment, and her calf was broken. The members of their class committee specially went to see it once, but Ruan King Mu was still in a drowsiness and did not speak when they went there. "Why is this school starting? It seems that something is not right." The demeanor of speaking is lazy and casual, and there is no such thing as before. "By the way, are your legs okay?" she asked cautiously. Ruan King Mu looked at the squad leader and at the crutches at her feet. "The plaster has been removed, it's fine. Be careful not to move around, just keep it for a few days." The class leader kindly asked, "Then do you know how to fill out this form?" Ruan King Mu regained her senses, her eyelids lifted gently. "I don't know." The little squad leader found in a trance that this Ruan King Mu's eyes turned out to be a typical pair of peach blossom eyes. She blushed. "It's the trial of the class system this semester. There are 3 classes in the arts and sciences. We can choose which class to go to first. Then the teacher will summarize the registration situation and then unify it. Arrange." "Oh, when is it due?" "Before school in the afternoon," said the class leader. "The class teacher will come to explain later." They whispered in the back, and the business of the boy in front was still in full swing. A girl turned around and said, "Bai Xiaosheng, is there any homework for Qin Yuan in class 1? Bai Jing hesitated. "Wait for me to ask." Turning around, he swiped a message in the second-year high school group. "I want to buy the homework of the PEO class boss Qin at a high price. The price is negotiable, and those who are interested will knock it privately." This large group is opened by Beijing, not only across classes, but also anonymous, full-time inquiries and gossip. and 999 plus speeches are always available. The originally lively group chat suddenly became quiet, a little inexplicably cold. Someone dressed anonymously and said quietly, "Boss Jean's homework. Has anyone copied it?" I said I haven't seen it before. I'm from class 1 of PEU. Don't say that people won't copy homework, and they won't give people the answers for exams. I heard. +1. +10086, suddenly, someone anonymously sent a sneering expression, "Che, what is it, is the first grade in the grade great? No homework is copied, no test answers are passed, what are you pretending to be an iceberg boss? Woolen cloth." After a pause, she added, "If it were in our class, I would have been beaten to death long ago." The air pressure in the group dropped suddenly, and there was silence. There was only a brief moment of silence, and a message suddenly popped up. "Ripple pieces, the first age is great, so what's so great?" Looking at the speaker's cute Barbie head portrait, many people recognized it. The art committee of PEU, 1, is this? Soon, the girl who spoke changed her nickname to Class 1 Lianyi, no nickname, my real name. Soon, someone continued to speak, "Don't use nicknames, use real names." As if some kind of agreement was reached, a large string of messages suddenly appeared violently, all of them bearing the prefix of Class 1 XXX. "Our class doesn't like copying homework and answering, I hope you know. Being a thief by yourself doesn't like honest people, hee. When will you be beaten to death if you don't cheat for help? Do you have any pride in cheating?" As a Class 1 student, I asked my classmates, and everyone said that no one wants to kill our monitor, just want to kill those who say weird things. The anonymous one didn't know which class he belonged to. He was chased and scolded by a group of girls, and became angry, "Don't talk to your group of licking girls, you're brainless." The onlookers gasped and were trembling when suddenly, a speech with countless exclamation marks popped up. "One class sports committee Fu Songhua, who is it, who is slandering our monitor? Who is mocking the girls in our class? Fart. Boys and girls in our class all serve Boss Jean, and Lick Yan has a fart relationship? Am I not handsome enough?" After he arrogantly praised his handsomeness, he scolded arrogantly, "Fucking anonymous villain who hides his head and hides his tail, I'm afraid he is not a eunuch? There is a kind of anonymous, come out and duel." Crowd. I also ended up relying on the boys in class 1, what does it mean? Bai Jing lowered his voice mysteriously, "I will answer this question, I will tell you." Qin Yu and he several furry heads came together, and the girls in the first few rows also pricked up their ears. Behind him, the lazy Ruan King Mu suddenly raised her head. "Qin Yuan?" In the short but chaotic dream when I just took a nap, the yellow sand was flying, eyes, and it floated up again. Damn, who deserves this name too? He looked at the back of Bai Jing's neck in front of him, his eyes a little cold. The author has something to say, "Dear everyone, open a new article. Long time no see again, at the moment of the epidemic, is everyone okay? Especially the students, are you so suffocated that you want to explode? Let's write a campus article, I hope you like it, 2 chapters today, and more." Qin Yuan was just handsome and good grades, and his temper was stinky and cold. Did you know that? Bai Jing paused, and looked around implicitly. Someone quickly cheered, "Oh, how?" Bai Jing then continued, "As a result, at the end of the first semester, after a karaoke session, Boss Jean subdued everyone in his class. Guess why?" Everyone continued to cheer, "Oh, why? Isn't it not only Swiba, but also Meiba? Did you sing Conquest?" Bai Jing rolled his eyes and said, "Bulge. I heard the exact news. Their class went to sing K after the dinner party that night." Mr. Qin was not interested and left early. As a result, their class, the 2 classmates, Lu Lianyi and Lu Hanin, were blocked in the bathroom of the karaoke hall by the gangsters in the box next door. Fuck me! Someone exclaimed, Lu Hanin, my goddess! The school's post-bar school flower selection, well-deserved ranking first. And then what? Bai Jing whispered, there are 7 or 8 boys present, don't you look down on class 1, all of them are good children with excellent academic performance. Aren't you all perverted? That's not true, they all stood up to protect the girls. Bai Jing sighed, but without a few words of theory, he was abused by those gangsters and turned into scum. Tisk tisk, what kind of abuse? It is said that the school committee of their class was beaten and cried on the spot, and all the boys saw blood. I'm so miserable. What about Fu Songhua, their sports commissioner? Bai Jing sighed, Fu Songhua is really unequivocal, he went straight up and beat the 2 wretched men to the ground. But if he can fight again, there are several social brothers over there. One of the girls in front was anxious, then what should I do? What else can I do? As the saying goes, 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, and a hero can't stand a lot of people. Bai Jing looked sad. It is said that when Qin Yuan arrived, a few brother society is pressing Fu Songhua and is kicking his legs hard, forcing him to kneel. The crowd around listening to the gossip uttered a chorus of fuck. Key point. Isn't Qin Yuan gone? The dinner party just broke up. A girl didn't know what to do, so she called him. Anyway, Qin Yuan arrived. Fly a few meters away. Mummy is so exaggerated. Really? Of course it's true. Bai Jing raised his head. The girls in their class said that after Big Brother Qin rescued Fu Songhua, he immediately pushed all the girls into the box and locked them up, telling them not to come out. Then I dismantled an iron barley and went out. Oh, and then? Then, I heard the ping and pong outside, screaming in the sky. When the door opened again, all the social brothers were beaten away, and Qin Yuan was standing there in blood. I rely on, his face is full of evil spirits, and he sneered and said, whoever blocks me will die, whoever encounters me will die. The noisy classroom was quiet for a while, and everyone suddenly burst into laughter. A girl in front said, don't talk about it. This is true, but how can there be the last mentally retarded line? That's right, you've read too many novels of the city soldier Wang Wireless, haha. The boys roared. Bai Jing was anxious, okay, the last sentence was played by me, but Mr. Qin can really fight. The broken glass was up against his throat, and those people were scared off. The classroom was surprisingly quiet, and I don't know who was hissing like a toothache and sucking in the air conditioner. Fuck, shocked my whole family. Usually I only know that the big guy in class 1, Qin Yuan, is a university bully. Every time the monthly and final exam total scores are at least 50 points away from the second place in the age, and the provincial competition awards are soft, the so-called double fault top flow, the top flow of the Yanzi fault, the top flow of the sub-fault. What is the current situation? The force value is also fault top flow? This style is wrong. So cool. A girl sighed in a low voice. The girls in their class are so happy, I'm envious. The girl who spoke was tall and sturdy, and immediately there was a boy with a smile on her face. You don't need our protection, if we are beaten, we still count on you. The girl jumped up from her seat and stretched out her hand to hit him. Go to hell, you, my mother has so much spare time, to protect stray dogs will not protect you. Ha 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 ha. The classroom burst into laughter. Finally someone asked, what happened later? Can't you see it later? Bai Jing sighed, I heard that all the girls who were there that day were crying, and then all the boys in their class were convinced. Fu Songhua said more, in the future, he will not accept anyone, only their squad leader. How come you never heard of such a great deed? Bai Jing shook his head, after all, it's a fight to see blood, and we will also judge the 3 good students in the future. The people in their class discussed it afterwards, and they didn't say anything. No, there is no airtight wall in the world. Well. After he finished speaking, he added in a deep voice, Sao Nian, so, high scores in exams are awesome, and awards are cool, but being able to fight is the ultimate meaning. He was talking so much that the stars flew, and suddenly, something pushed him from behind. When he turned around, he was startled. What? A white to almost transparent hand stretched out, holding a black steel crutch, 2 rows of seats away, slowly poking him. Ruan King Mu, what are you doing? The always gloomy and reserved boy looked at him with a very unfriendly sneer. When the peach blossom eyes are bent, it looks like a cold crescent moon without temperature. He tilted his head. Hey, don't brag. Bai Jing, who is this? Why do you suddenly have such a presence? The thin and beautiful boy raised his hand, drew a balloon-blowing mouth, and then made a bang in his mouth. The cowhide is about to break, scaring people to death. The classroom was silent. A group of boys looked at him suspiciously. Nima, is this Ruan King Mu who has been sitting in the back corner, rarely speaking, and looks like an autistic child? Bai Jing stammered and swallowed his saliva, then laughed dryly. Hee, no bragging, Mr. Qin is really awesome. Ruan King Mu's voice was not too loud, but the classroom was quiet, and he heard him sneer and talk to himself. Qin Yuan, a good name. However, not everyone deserves it. Call Qin Yuan. No one spoke anymore. A group of classmates opened their mouths, not knowing what to say. What is the logic of this? People don't deserve to be called Qin Yuan, who deserves it? Him? Ruan King Mu took out her mobile phone, started a group boringly, and took a few glances. The group name is Lanja Pavilion, the group owner is Second High School by Xiaosheng, and the group announcement reads Experiment 3 Middle School Lanja Pavilion, all classes are in control. There is always a dazzling name popping up. Qin Yuan, what kind of cat and dog can call this name, it's so annoying. He casually glanced forward at the chat record and sent a sentence casually. So good? You brag like this, do the parties know? Are you ashamed? Will you be embarrassed? He is not anonymous either, he just bears the ID of Class 9 Ruan King Mu. In the classroom of PEO Class 1 at the other end of the corridor, someone quickly shouted, Look at Lanja Pavilion, that anonymous just appeared. The large group that finally calmed down immediately exploded again, and a large number of real-name Class 1 students began to output frantically. Hee, I finally showed up. I haven't been scolded enough just now, so I'm begging for a beating again. What a villain, no explanation. I'm afraid it's not that my goddess likes Qin Swiba, and her heart is bleeding? Hee, your goddess will hate you even more when she sees your face immediately afterwards. A fanboy who got the news jumped out angrily. Class 1 Sports Committee Fu Songhua, finally came out, right? Have the courage to say strange things, have the courage to come out? A minute later, the corridor will see you. On the other side, Ruan King Mu looked at the phone. What, is he poking a hornet's nest full of honey? Fu Songhua is tall and handsome, and he is also generous and enthusiastic. He is surrounded by a few good friends all the time. He turned around and asked, What is this Ruan King Mu, who knows? Someone whispered, Would you like to talk to the monitor? Fu Songhua glanced at someone, looked at the iceberg-like profile and tall figure, quietly raised his fingers, and made a zipper action on his mouth. Don't, let's fight the slut. Don't disturb the boss to do the question. The boss shouldn't be contaminated with these red dust fireworks. After he finished speaking, he aggressively sent a 40-meter sword expression in the crowd, Come out, I just want to see what the fragrant turtle grandson looks like. Ruan King Mu looked at the interface of her phone and typed slowly, No. Fu Songhua replied in seconds over there, Oh, the grandson of the turtle is cowardly? Don't be afraid. I will not fight those whose height is less than 175. Ruan King Mu replied sullenly, I'm afraid I can't help hitting you. The crowd of Class 9 How can I break the feeling that the in this class is provoking all the top students in class 1? Old Jane is their class teacher. Ruan Qingmu was stunned for a while, grabbed the crutches by the table, and walked out slowly in the eyes of a large number of eyes. Entering the administrative office building, he knocked on Old Jane's office door. Old Jane, the head teacher, is a middle-aged fat man with a kind face, but he is just a man, and he likes to sigh whenever he speaks. Seeing Ruan Qingmu come in with a cane, Lao Jian was taken aback. It's so serious, doesn't it mean it's already healed? Can I go to school? Ruan Qingmu grinned, it's all right, it's just a protective measure, the doctor said that you can throw a cane after a while. Old Jane breathed a sigh of relief, that's good, I came to you to ask, do you have to live on campus this semester? There are still many students in the first year of high school, and the second year of high school is persuaded to live on campus so that the school can supervise their studies. This Ruan Qingmu did not submit the application form until the end of the last semester. Persuade. I didn't expect Ruan Qingmu to agree very readily this time. Well, live on campus. Not to mention, this leg is really inconvenient to go home every day. Old Jane was very happy, and said repeatedly, that's good, I'll report it to you, and then talk to the dormitory manager, I'll give you a first floor to save money, it's inconvenient for you to get up and down. Oh, thank you teacher. Old Jane looked at him and hesitated, there is one more thing, tell me directly, is there someone bullying you in the class? Ruan Qingmu raised her eyes to look at Lao Jian, and suddenly smiled, it's fine, teacher. I can do it myself. Old Jane was taken aback. This child used to dodge his eyes and lower his face, but now he raises his head indifferently, revealing a face with sharp eyebrows, which is extremely unfamiliar. Don't be afraid, tell me anything, I will protect you, I heard Lu Jun and the others. The boy interrupted him, good teacher, I will find you when I need it. Old Jane looked at him suspiciously, always feeling that something was wrong. He said something nice, but his eyes seemed to say don't tell me what you can do. Ruan Qingmu waved her hand, if there is nothing else, I will leave, goodbye teacher. As he was talking, the head teacher of the PEO class next to him turned his head, this classmate, please excuse me. You go back and pass our class, and help me give the monitor Qin Yuan a message and ask him to bring some boys. Come and move the textbook. In the classroom of class 1, the students are all burying their heads in reading books and doing questions, planning to meet the examination for the beginning of the school tomorrow. The classroom is obviously much more nervous than that of class 9. In the silence, only a clear voice could be heard from the window, who is Qin Yuan? Bring some men out. Everyone looked at the window. Fu Songhua was stunned, and asked casually, who are you? Oh. The boy arrogantly brushed the broken hair in front of his forehead, my name is Ruan Qingmu. After a few seconds, in the large group of students, a speech was shocking, shaking the whole second year of high school. The Ruan Qingmu from class 9 is here to fight. If he came alone, he ignored Fu Songhua, and called Mr. Qin and brought a few people together. The author has something to say, I will post 2 chapters today, and they will be updated every day in the future. The old readers who have followed my 2 books should know me well. Relax your heart, leave a lot of messages, there will be red envelopes. The classmates of PEO Class 1 stared out the window blankly. Fu Songhua jumped up from his seat suddenly, it's you? Are you really here? Ruan Qingmu squinted at him and sighed, Qin Yuan isn't here? It's okay if he isn't here, you can bring a few people out. With such a tall man, it should be no problem to move textbooks, right? There was a commotion in the classroom, and Fu Songhua jumped up in the eyes of countless astonished eyes. He rushed out of the classroom, ran to the window, and grabbed Ruan Qingmu's collar. Okay, there are really 175 samples, come and come, how many people will you bring? Ruan Qingmu's body was vigorously turned around, and she stumbled and almost fell to the ground. The crutches placed by the window fell down with a pat and fell on the floor in the hallway. Fu Songhua was stunned when he saw the ground. I am a lame man? A lame man on crutches who came to provoke the boss of Class 1? Some people in the next class started to look over the window, and from a distance, there were a lot of people in Class 9 looking for their brains. What is what? Someone in Class 9 scolded the monitor of Class 1, the university bully Qin Yuan, and came to provoke a fight? After all, Ruan Qingmu had just had a plaster cast out of one of her legs, and she was still a little uncomfortable. Fu Songhua felt depressed in his heart. Look at this little white face, his body is so thin, he is really afraid that one punch will directly break the person. Forget it, he, Fu Songhua, is bright and upright, and does not hit disabled students. Ruan Qingmu raised his head and squinted at Fu Songhua, who was handsome and tall in front of him. It was you who shouted in the group just now. He slowly moved his wrist and asked lightly. Fu Songhua took a deep breath. Don't bully disabled students. Can't. He bent over to pick up the cane, and muttered angrily, go away, I won't fight someone like you. Ruan Qingmu reached out to take it, but suddenly turned her wrist and grabbed his hand. He looked indifferent. Say Grandpa, I was wrong, and this matter will be turned over. Fu Songhua almost laughed. He pulled back hard, but the few white fingers on his wrist suddenly tightened, holding him tightly. Stay still. Damn, how can such a thin person get so much strength? No matter how open-minded, Fu Songhua is also anxious. He raised his arm and wanted to push Ruan Qingmu when he was chest, but just as he stretched his arm, he was grabbed tightly from his side. A cold and slightly magnetic voice sounded. Who is looking for me? Beside the two, stood a tall boy standing tall. He seems to be a little shorter than Fu Songhua, a sports commissioner, and there is no expression on his handsome face. Under the two light sword-like eyebrows, the narrow pair of phoenix eyes were extremely cold and bright. The first second she heard the voice, the sloppy expression on Ruan Qingmu's face froze. He turned his head slowly, his neck as stiff as his legs and feet. Looking blankly at the familiar face in front of him, he fell into a trance. In the previous life, his soul followed this person, watching him fight 6 people, watching him fall down with his own eyes. At that time, the famous Qin Yuan and Qin Shaoxia were only weak. And when they first met in the previous life, it was almost like this, 17 or 18 years old, fresh clothes and angry horses, and high spirits. Ruan Qingmu opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she suddenly lost her voice and her voice was hoarse. Qin Yuan, the monitor of Class 1, stood there, facing the startled gaze of the boy by the window, but did not speak immediately. The unfamiliar young man had his back lighted, but he could still see his deep eyebrows and his complexion as white as porcelain. The scorching August sun shot behind him, across the corridor, casting a dazzling light on the whole person. The standing figure was like a silhouette, solidified in the ancient painting. After the eyes crossed, it seemed that time stagnates for a moment, and then flows rapidly. Looking at the clean face in front of Ruan Qingmu, she suddenly felt a little sad. He stretched out his hand tremblingly, as if he wanted to touch the face hesitantly. Ruan Qingmu stared at him blankly, and then he heard his hoarse voice, Your name is Qin Yuan. Qin Yuan looked at him lightly. You just said, tell me to bring someone out, what's the matter? He said calmly, not in a hurry. The boy opposite didn't answer his question, just looked at him. Then, he seemed to be very confused and very serious and asked back, You don't know me? Fu Songhua next to him was grinning to the base of his ears. Who did he think he was? Ruan Qingmu looked at Qin Yuan without blinking, suddenly stretched out her hand, tucked all her long hair behind her ears, exposing her smooth forehead, and then pointed to your face. Look, you look. He asked almost earnestly, his eyes bright, don't you remember my face? The crowd. Today is the back-to-school day, and there are no classes. Some classes and head teachers are nagging. The latest report, Ruan Qingmu succeeded in provocation, Fu Songhua raised his fist in anger. Report. Qin Suiba appeared in the sky, and the two moved to separate the two, and the murderous aura was complete. Report. Ruan Qingmu raised her hair, stared at Qin Boss, and asked 3 times, "Your name is Qin Yuan?" The comments in the group are like a waterfall, and by the corridor window, a bunch of heads and shoulders overlap, scrambling to explore. Ban's girl is so bold. Boss Qin, is this a scumbag school girl? Look at this 3 copies of the soul. Qin Yuan frowned imperceptibly. For a long time, he asked back, "Should I know you?" The brilliance in the eyes of the boy opposite seemed to slowly dissipate. He stared at Qin Yuan for a long time, and then he smiled, a bit strangely lonely. "It's all right." He shook his head mockingly, "I got the wrong person." In the group, I don't know who suddenly posted a candid photo. In the picture, Class 1 University bully and Class 9 elementary school scum stand facing each other, 2 boys stand silently, one is as cold as an iceberg, the other is stunned. Besides, there are strands of blazing sunlight. Fu Songhua glanced at the phone, and scolded, "Fuck, dumbfounded. What kind of people are they all, just send photos when they send photos, and what is it to drop the P of the person next to them?" He is a Class 1 sports committee member, and he is also the top 3 in the school grass, so he is not welcome? Someone must have lost to his grandson in basketball. Someone in the group suddenly made a sneaky anonymous sentence. How can I break this strange feeling? Look at the soft girl, oh no, the expression of classmate Ruan is a sad person who has been scum. Pthahaha, Ben Yuanfang also feels that there must be a secret. I bet $5, Ruan Suezu's goddess was rejected by Qin Boss, she came to see her rival. Ruan Qingmu looked at Qin Yuan and finally remembered the purpose of this trip. He said in a low voice, "By the way, your head teacher asked me to tell me something. She asked you to bring some boys to carry the textbooks." Fu Songhua's eyes widened, "This classmate, can you stop panting next time you speak? On purpose?" When he asked someone to come out and move the teaching materials, he said it was like asking the young and the bewildered to go out to PK. Ruan Qingmu grabbed the cane and put it under her armpit. Just as she was about to turn her head, her arm was suddenly grabbed. Qin Yuan's cold voice sounded, "Your name is Ruan Qingmu?" Light and heavy, twilight. Ruan Qingmu's eyes suddenly lit up, as if she heard something super pleasant. Yeah. You remember? Qin Yuan frowned again. He has an excellent memory. It can be concluded that he had never seen this person before, let alone heard the name. But why, the moment he heard it, he could conclude that it was these 2 words. He finally shook his head, "Sorry, I don't know you." Ruan Qingmu looked at him, a strange emotion flashed in her eyes for some unknown reason. Suddenly throwing away the crutches, he grabbed Qin Yuan's collar and pushed Qin Yuan against the wall in front of everyone. On the first day back to school, there is no dress code. Not to mention that the girls are wearing their favorite beautiful skirts one by one, even the boys are not wearing school uniforms, most of them are wearing their favorite t-shirts and jeans. Only this well-known commander in the school is better than Qin Yuan, who wears the uniform of number 3 middle school as meticulously as ever. The most common style, white short-sleeved dark blue trousers, the top only has a little decoration on the neckline and chest pocket, it is the same color dark blue / the whole suit is mediocre and boring, making the boys and girls who love beauty miserable. But this school uniform was still on Qin Yuan's body, and it was still bright and splendid, like a fashion, making people unable to take their eyes off. The boys who just wanted to leave. Girls looking through the window. In the group, report, Ruan student slammed Qin Yuan's wall on the corridor wall and tore his clothes. Report again, student Ruan is now looking down under the clothes of big brother Qin. Ruan King Mu stared at Qin Yuan's front chest. Under the collarbone, there was a familiar red triangle, so striking that it stabbed people's eyes with pain. He stretched out his hand involuntarily, his palm moved down slightly, and a finger pressed on the red dot under the collarbone. Here. Qin Yuan's calm expression finally changed. He raised his arm violently, separating Ruan King Mu's hand heavily, grabbing it, then turning around again, pressing his elbow on his throat, forcing him to lean back and bumping into the hallway wall. "What's wrong with you?" He was obviously angry, but his voice didn't increase, instead it was lower and deeper. Report, after being harassed by seeing, Big Brother Qin is implementing anti-wall pounding. Walla, a few people in the next class folded into arhats, unable to stand still under excitement, staggered and fell into a string of rolling gourds. Ruan King Mu was short of breath, and was forced to breathe by this fierce oppression. But he didn't move, just stared into Qin Yuan's eyes. Then, in a low voice that no one could hear, he asked softly. "A snake bite?" "There. The author has something to say. The first time we met, the wall was slammed. In addition, everyone who left a message yesterday sent a red envelope. Everyone check the backstage. If I missed anything, squeak. I will make up the serialization period of the new article needs to leave a message for encouragement, and even more need to comment to increase the points on the list. If you have enough time, leave a comment, thank you very much." The boy's warm breath was in Qin Yuan's ear, his voice was soft, but it seemed like a thunder had exploded in Qin Yuan's ear. His momentary shock did not escape Ruan King Mu's eyes. Sure enough. How can this person be bitten by a snake in this lifetime, in the city of Steel Jungle? Qin Yuan's breathing was also a little heavier. He stared at the strange young man he met for the first time, hoarse his voice, and retorted in a deep voice, "It's a birthmark." "Hee. Birthmark." Ruan King Mu didn't speak any more, he gasped uncomfortably, raised his hands, and made a gesture of surrender. Qin Yuan finally released the restraint slowly. "Don't look at Ruan King Mu anymore," he turned his head and walked up the stairs. "Fu Songhua, go with me to carry the textbook." Fu Songhua responded, and quickly brought a few boys to follow, passing Ruan King Mu and glaring at him. Several boys were walking towards the teaching building, and Fu Songhua was still nagging, "It's inexplicable, how can a lame be so bold?" The classmates beside him nodded vigorously, "It's like a lunatic." Qin Yuan buried his head in front and suddenly said, "Are there any disabled students in our grade?" There was a classmate next to him who was looking at his mobile phone and immediately shook his head, No, I just asked Bai Xiaosheng from their class, he is a normal person. At the end of last semester, he suddenly had a car accident. He was hit by a car. That's it. Qin Yuan's pace slowed down. He turned to look at the classmate who was talking, "Will it be okay?" The classmate was a little confused, how could he know if it would be okay? He gave an unsure "Ah, it should be all right." It was said that the plaster was just removed, so I was using crutches to recover. Fu Songhua glanced at Qin Yuan, strange, why does the boss have a look of relief on his face? It must be the same as him. I feel that I can't care about my disabled classmates. When Ruan King Mu returned to the classroom, she received a lot of complex eyes. The eyes of the girls in the first few rows are very strange. The monitor Tang Tianation's cute cherry mouth opened into an O. Bai Xiaosheng Baijing is more like a sunflower, with a head like a sunflower. Followed him from the time he entered the classroom. Ruan King Mu, leaning on crutches, walked to the back row and sat down unhurriedly. Baijing finally couldn't help it, turned his head and shouted at Ruan King Mu, "Hey, Ruan, Boss Qin is so good at beating, didn't you get killed just now?" At this moment, there was a commotion from the back door of the classroom, and several sweaty boys wearing sports vests walked in from outside. The leading boy was big and thick, with pimples on his face, densely packed, covering his forehead and chin. He walked past Baijing and sneered rudely, Qin Yuan can fight? It's okay to lose the grades. When it comes to fighting, I don't know how many people can abuse him. He casually pressed Bai Jing's head hard. You are an idiot. What kind of thing is Qin Yuan? Want you to help him here? Bai Jing didn't dare to let out the air, so he shrank his neck and said nothing. Lu Jun is the class bully in the class. Even in the entire grade, he can be ranked in the top 3 roles. He usually leads a few people on the rampage in the class. Classmate. The most annoying thing is that when the first year of high school started, the head teacher Lao Jian saw that he was in good shape, and without knowing the details, he even gave him a sports committee. After a year, the whole class has nothing, people dare to mess with him. Lu Jun walked towards the back of the classroom, and saw the crutches on the side of the aisle at a glance. Suddenly raised his foot, he kicked it up, one fell to the ground, and the other crutch rose into the air, hitting the back of the boy in front of Ruan Qingmu heavily. The boy was in pain. Ah called out. The boy who was hit was handsome and wore a pair of large black-rimmed glasses. When he turned around, he was meeting Lu Jun's arrogant face. He shrank slightly, and didn't dare to say a word. Grabbing the cane, he timidly handed it to Ruan Qingmu. Here you. Lu Jun was unhappy, picked up a book beside him, and smashed the boy on the head. Hey, are you very bold? As soon as Ruan Qingmu entered the door from Lu Jun, her eyes fell on him. Watching him approach, listening to him mocking Qin Yuan, watching him kick his crutches, and then watching him hit the boy in the front seat on the head, his eyes became colder and colder. What are you looking at? You want to die? Lu Jun squinted and gave him a sideways glance. Ruan Qingmu slowly stretched out her hand, took her crutches, and sat upright. I think you're an idiot. He moved his white wrist, the cuff of his long-sleeved shirt covered his wrist bone, and his knuckles made a few clicks. The sound was very light, but everyone in the classroom could hear it. Everyone gasped. Bai Jing turned his head in horror. What's the situation? The one who was singled out for class 1 was let go by others, and now he is going to duel class tyrants again? Lu Jun was obviously confused too. He stared blankly at Ruan Qingmu. This is the Ruan Qingmu who was beaten by him in the toilet before and didn't even dare to say a word? I just taught him a lesson at the end of last semester. I heard that he was hit by a car on the way home. Is this a fool? He bent down in surprise, stretched out his hand, and wanted to pat Ruan Qingmu's face. Aren't you lame? Why is your brain so funny? The sitting boy moved. Violently, he slammed it on Lu Jun's leg. Lu Jun was completely unprepared. The pain came, the whole person staggered, and threw himself between the 2 rows of desks. Ruan Qingmu didn't hesitate to insert it, and the crutches clicked and got stuck in the rung of the desk. With more force, the other end of the crutch was placed across Lu Jun's neck. He leaned down lightly, stretched out his free leg, stepped on the cane, and pressed down. Lu Jun's neck immediately burst with blue veins, and his face was blood red. The indifferent boy lowered his head and looked at his liver-like face with satisfaction. I'll remember it later. Don't hit people in front of me, or I'll hit him once every time. With the sound of gasping for air, under Lu Jun's frantic struggle, the boy's eyebrows and eyes were delicate and sharp. He crouched in the shadows and raised his hands. But the face that was close at hand was greasy and the whiteheads of pimples were looming. He paused and then moved his hand away in disgust. He picked up a dirty book on the ground, and slapped it heavily towards Lu Jun's face pop. The book hit the face with a crisp sound. The whole classroom exploded. The one who stretched his neck and looked back, stood up and leaned over here. It was a mess. The squad leader Tang Tiantian hurriedly squeezed back and shouted, "Don't fight, calm down." No one can calm down. Lu Jun went crazy, grabbed the crutches on his neck with all his strength, raised it up with all his strength, and scolded, "The surname is Ruan, I'm going to cut you off." Ruan Qingmu smiled, bent over and punched him hard. I don't have an uncle. The younger brothers behind Lu Jun finally came to their senses. Some people stretched out their hands to pull Ruan King Mu's shoulders, some people punched him in the back, and some people pulled his legs. Ruan King Mu grabbed another crutch and swung it back. The boy's black fist was hitting the steel crutch, and he threw his hand in pain. Ah! Damn you! Hit me! Tang Tian squeezed in for a long time before he squeezed in. He saw several boys surrounding Ruan King Mu, so anxious. Stop hitting, don't bully people. When she looked up, the head teacher in the corridor outside the window was walking this way, and she hurriedly called, "The head teacher is coming." Ruan King Mu paused and glanced out the window from the corner of her eye. Lu Jun, who was still pressed to the ground, swore that at this moment, he saw a trace of bad intentions on Ruan King Mu's face. Suddenly, Ruan King Mu jumped away from him and shrank into the corner. He clutched the cane tightly, squatted on the ground, shielded his head, waved randomly, and shouted, "Don't hit me, don't hit me. Please." Just as he lifted his foot, the crutch in Ruan King Mu's hand was heavily on his ankle. Before Lu Jun screamed in pain, he shouted again, "Stop hitting, my leg. My leg is about to break again." He was screaming, but his left crutches took advantage of the trend and hooked another boy's calf. The space between the seats was small, so the boy immediately fell and gnawed shit, his nose hit the desk, and his nose bleed. "Ri, Ruan King Mu, you are crazy." Lu Jun had pain in his legs, feet, and neck. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy, and he punched Ruan King Mu on the head, "You mother!" In the chaos, only a sound of thunder sounded at the door. "What's going on?" The head teacher Lao Ji unhurriedly separated a group of classmates, and saw Ruan King Mu sitting on the ground at a glance, then looked at Lu Jun and the others. His face was dark. "Lu Jun, you are making trouble again." He was so angry. "You beat someone on the first day of school, and it was a classmate who was not in good health. I think you don't want to do it." Lu Jun and several others were stunned. The boy with the nosebleed grimaced, "Teacher, he hit us." Lu Jun blushed, "Yes, we were beaten. His whole body hurts." The head teacher Lao Jian glared at them, as if looking at a few mentally retarded. "You mean, you are a sports committee member, and some of your basketball team?" He pointed at Ruan King Mu, who was sitting huddled on the ground. "He is alone, how many of you?" Brother Nosebleed's nosebleed was dripping happily, and he reached out and wiped his face. "Yes, teacher, don't believe me." Old Jane shouted, "Get out of here." He bent down and helped Ruan King Mu. "Where is the injury?" Ruan King Mu blinked, stood up with his hand, and sat on the chair very weakly. "No, it's fine. Teacher, they didn't hit me. I was careless." Old Jane sighed in her heart, turned her head and shouted angrily at Lu Jun, "Come to my office later." The classroom finally became normal. Lao Jane stood on the podium, and the students all returned to their original positions. Ruan King Mu lazily moved back to her seat, and lightly tapped the desk with her white fingers. The author has something to say. There is no huge golden finger in this article. But they fight. Don't ask why your body can keep up. Don't ask why your muscles suddenly have strength. Asking is setting, ha ha ha. The classmates ran back to their seats in a mess and peeked back from time to time. Old Jane stood on the podium with a bad look on her face. "One by one, the summer vacation is all wild, right?" He raised the class selection intention form in Yang's hand. "Returning to school one day early, I want you to fill in this. Have you thought about it? One by one is not a fight, but a fight." A group of boys said "Oh" and shouted, "Teacher, I'm waiting for you to explain, don't dare to fill it out." Bai Jing glanced back. Damn it, just now it was clearly Lu Jun and a few people fighting around Ruan King Mu, but why did he have an illusion, as if Ruan King Mu didn't suffer? Hey, he rubbed his best friend in front of him. "Did you just see that it was really Lu Jun and the others who beat Ruan King Mu?" The boy turned his head quietly, "Otherwise." Bai Jing felt that he had no confidence. "I always feel that Ruan King Mu beat them up, Do you think I am dazzled? You're not dazzling. Yet, don't you think? His best friend sighed, you are blind. Old Jane is chubby, holding a cold water glass in her hand, panting on it. Okay, let me tell you, listen carefully, and be careful when filling in. Experimental number 3 middle school received a notice from the Education Bureau this year that a total of 10 middle schools have been designated as pilots in this city to carry out the reform of class-based teaching. The leaders of number 3 middle school did not dare to neglect, and based on the experience of other schools and neighboring provinces, they finally decided to implement small classes. The 3 main courses of Chinese, mathematics, and English are still in fixed classes, and the remaining sub-subjects are taught by class, and the arts and sciences are divided into 3 progress classes. The teaching content of the competition class is the most difficult, and the content is inclined to competition. It serves for some top students to win awards, strive for extra points in the college entrance examination, or even recommend them. Leading flight progress is second, faster than normal progress, and much more difficult, escorting students with single subjects and partial subjects. The rest of the class is called the steady class. As the name suggests, the class is conducted according to the normal progress of the college entrance examination, and the main target is most of the ordinary class students. The administrative class remains unchanged, with the original student members, but the elective courses in the afternoon are organized into different classes. Students are allowed to move, and after a period of time, they can apply for a class change according to their own level. For example, if you improve in physics, you can change from the stable class to the flight leader or even the competition class. If you can't keep up in chemistry, you can also change to the stable class in chemistry. The teacher is optional, the class is optional, and the progress is optional, that is, to teach students according to their aptitude, without forcing each student to listen to the same progress in the same class. The benefits are self-evident Of course, there are many drawbacks in practice. For example, management is easy to be confused, and the students in the morning administrative class and the afternoon class are different, and roll call and attendance are new troubles. Old Jane took a sip. I recommend everyone not to choose the competition class, but if you are confident in your own subject, you can consider applying for a single subject to lead the flight. The boy in the front row raised his hand. Teacher, are there more places to lead the flight? Old Jane's eyes are very kind. Don't worry, this pilot is just to inspire everyone to get better teaching in individual subjects. There are no restrictions on competition classes and pilot flights. Don't be selfish and be brave. Point. The weather was hot, he talked for a long time, his mouth was dry, and his voice was still loud. 100 feet, go further. If you don't fight now, why wait? Let him speak passionately. The students below are still stunned. After all, their 9th class is at the bottom of the whole grade, and this time the arts and sciences have divided a few top students, seeing that the ranking in the class has to be lowered. You don't have to rush to fill it in, just hand it in before school. Lao Jian continued, also, tomorrow is the beginning of the school's foundation test, everyone cheer up, and how to divide the class in the end will also be referred to the results of this school opening. The following is a long sigh. Ruan Qingmu held her chin and looked at the elective table in her hand. The above courses are all 3 options: competition class, lead flight, and steady class. Tisk tisk, it kind of takes care of the self-esteem of the underachievers, it's called stable. He checked all of the robust classes at will. Old Jane finished the class selection and raised her hand. Now, don't get sick on the first day, there is a comprehensive set of papers here, everyone, come and practice. The following morning, teacher, isn't there a school opening examination tomorrow, why is there still today? Old Jane smiled kindly. Familiarize yourself with the feel first. The exam will start on time at 7:30 tomorrow morning, so don't be late. The school committee began to send out the papers, which soon reached Ruan Qingmu. When the owner of the original body was admitted to high school, his grades were not bad, and he had the basics. But after entering high school, his grades plummeted, and by the end of last semester, he was at the bottom of this poor class. He spread out the pen and paper, and began to draw the comprehensive test paper. The classroom gradually became quiet, and most of the people began to write hard. Old Jane looked around and said, "Everyone do it slowly, just hand it in before school in the afternoon." Immediately afterwards, he turned his face, "Lu Jun, you guys come to the office with me." Old Jane grabbed him and said, "It's done, right? Bring it to me too." The boy. What did he do wrong? Followed up and beat people, didn't they even touch the hair, and they were beaten with nosebleeds. The classmates in the classroom watched helplessly as old Jane carried a few people away, and it became lively. Everyone is not stupid. Since there is no teacher invigilation, it means that this paper is really practiced and will not be corrected. Without scores, who would be afraid? Some people took out their mobile phones and continued to gossip in the group, and more people began to study the class schedule. This semester did not disrupt the class, just left the liberal arts naturally, forming 6 new liberal arts classes. Each class was left with the original classmates. But this time, the sub-department will be disrupted, and you will be able to meet some new students. The sturdy and tall girl had a good relationship with the squad leader Tang Tian, and they whispered together, "Tian, should we choose a pilot flight to try? I'm better at chemistry, and I want to try it." Tang Tian hesitated, "Well, I want to report a creature. Then we can't go to class together, hey." The boys are also talking to each other. Although their grades are not good enough, they are always a little biased. Some students with top grades also want to fight and sign up for a pilot flight. Suddenly, someone shouted at Bai Jing, "Hey, Xiao Bai, do you have any news about other classes?" Bai Jing immediately shook his head, "Everyone just got the watch, and it hasn't come out yet." "When?" "Noon at the latest." Bai Jing auctioned his chest and promised, "I have informants for the first-hand news of the grass class flowers in each class. You can come to me at about noon, welcome to make an appointment." Some boys stood a few rows apart and called out from the front, "I'm cheating on you, I'll take a deposit." Bai Jing promised and exaggerated, "Okay, please do it. Your goddess's class selection news is a deposit of 1 yuan, and the balance is 9 yuan $10, you need a face." The boy scolded, "I won't buy it, I don't know if I go to the next class to find out." Bai Jing waved his hand, "If you are embarrassed, you can go. It's better to ask with a loudspeaker." "Fuck, profiteer. Thanks for the compliment." While arguing with people, Bai Jing made an announcement in the cross-class group, "Last year, the school's post-bar school was selected as the top 10 grass school flowers, and the class selection news is open for pre-sale. 10 yuan per person, all 10 yuan. The group immediately became enthusiastic. Is the group owner crazy? Dare to sell a piece of information so expensive? It's useless to be in the same class as the class, as if it could be next to the table. Bai Jing typed quickly, "Wake up, what else do you want to do with 10 yuan? You can get close contact with the school grass and class flowers, and be a classmate for the remaining 2 years, even if you don't intersection, at least eye-catching, isn't it?" He pointed his mobile phone at his best friend in the front seat, took a big head photo with his face, and posted it in the group. "You don't want to look at this face for 2 years, right?" The group immediately wailed, "Speak well, don't close the photo without a word. The nose is full of hair, and the eyes are hot. I'll pay $2.05, I'm asking for the class selection news from this man. My God, who has such a strong taste, why buy his news? Buy it to avoid it." The group lined up with expressions of laughter, and the boy was so angry that he reached out and beat Bai Jing. "Are you itchy? Bai Jing, use your portrait rights and give you $10 later." "Bah, I have to add iced milk tea." Bai Jing laughed, "Deal." Tang Tian finished filling it out by himself, stood up and called, is there anything you have filled out? You can submit it, and if you can't submit it, don't worry. Not everyone has to inquire about the school flower and grass, many people quickly finished it and started to pass on. Ruan Qingmu also smashed the thin boy in front, passed the class selection table over his shoulder, and then took out his mobile phone to check QQ. The crowd was still full of voices, almost all anonymous. Some people are speculating about the real purpose of Ruan Qingmu to provoke Qin boss. Some people say that Ruan Qingmu has a crush on a girl in class 1 and was rejected, and some people say that Ruan Qingmu looked for Qin in the front seat for the final exam last semester. The boss wanted an answer and was reported by Qin boss afterwards. Every line is prudent and serious. Ruan Qingmu was amused. She looked up and saw the photo of the corridor that she didn't know who took it. He looked at it for a while, then suddenly smiled and clicked save. Suddenly, an anonymous speech popped up in the group. What about the class selection news of the class 1 boss Qin Yuan? There was a chill in the group. Bai Jing sent 3 disintegrating emojis in a row. Sister, be sensible. The information of Mr. Qin is not that I dare not sell it. Do I need to buy it? Suddenly, several responses jumped out. Of course, all subjects choose the competition class. Are there other options? Yet, Bai Xiaosheng can't sell for money, because the answer is certain. Because the answer is sure. +1. +2. +10086. Ruan Qingmu looked at QQ to speak, and suddenly shouted at the front, Monitor, I want to change the class selection information. Tang Tian let out an O, and quickly found him from the class selection list he just collected, and kindly sent it over himself. Change it. Student Ruan, who was at the bottom of the score, took over and crossed out all the stable classes on the form. Then, in the selection of the 3 sub-subjects, the competition class was ticked off. Tang Tian, this. Ruan Qingmu raised her eyebrows. Why, no. Tang Tian almost stammered, yes, yes. Just, maybe. She can't go on. It's not probably that she can't keep up with the progress, but definitely. But she has never been a sharp person. She persuaded people not to be too self-aware, which is really hard to say. Ruan Qingmu suddenly laughed, her peach blossom eyes were gentle and lazy, then let's work together. The classmates who were staring at him all around were almost crazy, and the pen in Bai Jing's hand fell off with a slap. Got it together. Who is going to the cauldron of the competition class, and cheer up with those monsters? The author has something to say. Qin Swiba, I heard that there are new students coming to our competition class. Continue to ask for comments. Today's transition chapter, need comments to cheer. The sun in August is hot, shining on the streets at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. The asphalt road is black as if it is about to emit blue smoke. Today is the first day of returning to school in the second year of high school. The students stayed up all day, handed in the class selection form, and completed a whole set of practice exam papers before school was over. Residential students stay on campus directly, and the remaining sparse day students will go home. Ruan Qingmu was leaning on crutches, standing on the side of the road, almost fainted from being roasted. A string of bells rang behind him, and a half-worn bicycle stopped beside him. A boy wearing a white sun hat looked at him cautiously. How did you get home? Ruan Qingmu turned her head. It turned out to be the boy sitting in front of him, named Fang Li. Although the little boy wears big black rimmed glasses, he can still see that his eyelashes are very long, and his lips are shaped like water chestnuts, which are a bit indistinguishable between males and females. In the memory of the original owner, he and this boy were both bullied by Lu Jun and the others. If Ruan Qingmu was said to be gloomy and introverted, then this Fang Li was even weaker and timid. Ruan Qingmu was also a little helpless. It's too hot to call a car. Relying on the original memory, he can also use the taxi software, but the high temperature of 36 to 7 degrees, the taxis on the road are full, the speed is very fast when passing by, and the taxi software is too late. No driver took the order. Fang Li bit his lip. Then I'll accompany you, wait for you to get in the car before leaving. Ruan Qingmu was a little surprised. Don't say no, thank you. The two of you call together, the chance won't be bigger. Why do you have one more person to be grilled dried fish? Fang Li hesitated for a while, so he got on his legs and rode away. Across the road, a low-key black Audi parked on the side of the road. Qin Yuan opened the car door and sat in the back seat. The air conditioner in the car was fully on. The driver Uncle Yan was waiting early, and when he saw him coming up, he stepped on the accelerator. School is over, isn't it hot outside? Uncle Yan held the steering wheel and started steadily, chatting casually. Qin Yuan sat in the back and replied softly, well, it's okay. Uncle Yan looked at him in the rear-view mirror, and suddenly said, hey, what's wrong with your school uniform? Qin Yuan suffocated and frowned, not knowing how to answer. He was depressed when the car drove past the school gate, his eyes swept out casually, and he suddenly sat up straight. Although the blazing sun has been faintly westward, it is still unbearably hot. On the side of the dark asphalt road, a boy with a dazzling white complexion stands alone, with a cane under his arm. A taxi with an empty car sign approached, and he quickly raised his crutches and waved vigorously. Audi drove past the school gate. Qin Yuan watched Ruan Qingmu's face flash past the window. Looking back and looking through the rear window, the young man raised his hand, as if he was pointing his at a taxi that was going away, and wiped his sweat helplessly. Uncle Yan looked at the rear-view mirror and noticed that Qin Yuan had been turning his head to look back, and asked tentatively, any classmates? Audi quickly turned a corner, and the figure standing under the scorching sun disappeared. Qin Yuan gave a hum, finally turned around and sat up straight. There is a small heat preservation bucket on the back seat of the car, open it, and there is iced mineral water in it. He casually touched a can, took a sip absent-mindedly, and suddenly opened his mouth. Uncle Yan, you were in our house when you were young, right? Uncle Yan smiled, yeah, I've been here for your full moon wine. At that time, I hadn't transferred to another place. Then, have you seen this red mark on my body when you were a child? Uncle Yan was stunned for a moment. I've been following you since I was 3 years old. I've seen you bare ass, not to mention this birthmark. Is it born? Qin Yuan's voice was a little strange. Sure, what's wrong? Qin Yuan was silent for a while. Uncle Yan, you have been a field soldier and have a lot of knowledge. Look at my birthmark, does it look like, he asked with difficulty, like a snake bite scar? It happened to be a red light. Uncle Yan stopped the car and turned to look at him. Qin Yuan pulled his chest down a little, and the bright red triangle was exposed. Uncle Yan took a closer look and smiled, don't say it, it really looks like a poisonous snake's teeth marks. What's left, but if it's really bitten by a snake, it won't be so smooth, and it won't be this color. Qin Yuan let out a sigh of relief. He also knew that it was a birthmark, smooth and clean, without the slightest scar or the bumps left by the injury. It could only be brought from the womb. When I was young, I was always on my body. What's the matter, why do I ask this? Uncle Yan was a little curious. The green light came on, Uncle Yan started the car, have a nightmare. Then something slippery suddenly jumped out in the dark and bit me. Qin Yuan whispered, and involuntarily touched the bright red spot on his chest, it's right here. Uncle Yan laughed, you children, you have watched too many martial arts TV dramas, so you have this kind of dream. What kind of poisonous snake or hidden weapon? Then what? Qin Yuan whispered, then the wound became numb and itchy, and I passed out. And then? Qin Yuan answered the question, Uncle Yan, will you have the same dream again and again? Uncle Yan nodded, occasionally, but the details will not be exactly the same. It's normal, it's just like this, you are going to take the college entrance examination. Qin Yuan was silent. This dream is completely unfamiliar, and it only started to recur during this summer vacation. He didn't take it seriously at first, and thought it was due to academic pressure or childhood trauma, until today he heard the words that made his scalp tingle. The voice was soft and clear, with a nice boyish tone, and asked firmly in his ear, "Is it bitten by a poisonous snake? Where?" And in that dream, the exact same voice was surprised, "Tisk tisk, Chin Shaoxia is too careless, I don't know that there are many poisonous insects in this place, should you be extra careful? I also have things on my body. All fell, and there is no antidote to save you. I can't see anything in the dream, only vaguely feel that the wound on my chest is getting numb and my eyes are getting blurry. The nose is the rotten smell of fallen leaves, and the fresh air of the green grass in the mountains." For a long time, the young man said again, "Although we are mortal enemies, but I am kind-hearted, I can't see you suffering so much from poisoning." Otherwise he approached faintly, with a frivolous tone, "I'll just kill you. Uncle Yan, can you turn around and go back to the school gate?" Qin Yuan suddenly said. Uncle Yan was startled, "Oh, okay. Is there anything?" Qin Yuan hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "There is a classmate. It seems that I can't get a taxi." Uncle Yan responded repeatedly, "Okay, okay, we'll take your classmates for a ride, it should be." He was really happy. Watching Qin Yuan grow up since he was a child, he knows better than anyone that this child does not like to make friends with others. He has never seen him take any classmates on his own initiative in this shuttle bus. But in this world, how can there be children who really don't like their peers? The black Audi quickly turned around at the next intersection and drove towards the gate of number 3 middle school. "It should be a taxi," Uncle Yan said regretfully, and soon became happy again. "Next time, remember to ask your friend to take the car next time, we will send him. By the way, where does he live?" Qin Yuan leaned on the back seat and answered lightly after a while, "No, I don't know him. It's just that it's inconvenient to see his legs. The August wind blows on my face, and it feels hot." Ruan Qingmu sat in the back seat of Fang Li's car, holding 2 crutches in one hand, and with the other hand, she was struggling to wrap her arms around the boy's pitifully thin waist. "Hey, thanks," he called in a higher voice. If Fang Li hadn't turned around to pick him up, I don't know how long he would have stood at the school gate. Actually, a minute before Fang Li arrived, he had already made up his mind. If he couldn't wait for a taxi, he would turn around and go back to the classroom to wait until the sun went down and come out to try again. Even if he doesn't like to sweat, he will sweat a layer of clothes during this time, and he will be roasted and dried like a small fish. Fang Li pedaled hard and whispered, "You're welcome, I'm riding along the road, and I haven't seen any free cars, so I think you probably won't be able to ride." Fortunately, he was not riding a mountain bike without a rear seat, but an outdated women's 26 bike that could carry people. Ruan Qingmu tilted her head and poked Fang Li, "Did the crutch hit you just now? Is there something wrong?" Fang Li shook his head in panic, No. Ruan Qingmu said lazily, "In the future, Lu Jun and the others will cause trouble again, tell me, I will cover you." Fang Li stepped on the wheel without saying a word. How to answer this? Didn't they get bullied together by Lu Jun and the others before? They sent them to buy food and drinks, forced them to be caddies picking up badminton in gym class, and called them 2 mothers in front of the whole class gun. How come the summer is over and suddenly the sun is shining? Ruan Qingmu's house is not far from number 3 middle school. Fang Li followed his instructions and rode for about half an hour, and finally turned into an alley in the old city far away. In recent years, several new urban areas have been built in this city, all of which are tall buildings, spacious roads, and green belts that are clean and lush. However bright the new city is, the old city to the east is dilapidated. The roads are narrow and messy, the old pipelines are intricate, the residents' income is low, and the demolition is difficult. He rode the bike carefully, bypassing the pothole on the ground, parked the bike at the door of a storefront along the street, and raised his head hesitantly. The beauty blind massage. Main body massage, massage, scraping, cupping, foot bath, oil pushback. Ruan King Mu moved down from the back seat of his car and pouted at the door of the massage shop. My house, here it is. Fang Li quickly retracted his hesitant gaze and said, oh. Come in and sit down and have a drink. Ruan King Mu walked to the door with a cane and asked back. Nice. As soon as she saw Ruan King Mu at the door, she hurriedly asked, I'm back? I'll be waiting for your meal. It's hot on the road, will the taxi go smoothly? When she saw Fang Li, she was surprised. Oh, is this Mumu's classmate? Come in and sit. Ruan King Mu replied, I can't get a car in the heat, so my classmate took me back. My classmate in the front seat, Fang Li. Then he turned his head to Fang Li and introduced, this is my mother. The middle-aged woman showed gratitude on her face, and came to pull Fang Li diligently, then thank you so much, classmate Fang, on such a hot day, is it not exhausting to bring people? Come in and have a meal, let's have lunch. Fang Li's face was flushed, and he pushed up the big black-rimmed glasses in embarrassment, no, my family is waiting for me to go back for dinner, thank you auntie. He waved at Ruan King Mu, got on the car, and ran away as if flying. Ruan King Mu shouted at his back with a fiery voice, next time come play. Auntie will give you a full-body massage to keep you refreshed and comfortable. Fang Li fled in the distance, kicking faster. The author has something to say, Qin Yuan, sitting on someone's bicycle and laughing? Hehe, I will tell you to cry on my BMW in the future. Shocked, is there a generation gap? This is a famous line of a female guest in the blind date show Sing and Don't Disturb. I would rather cry in a big BMW, I don't want to sit on the back seat of the bicycle and drink the northwest wind romantically with my poor boyfriend, which has triggered extensive discussions in the society on the concept of money-worshipping marriage and love. Of course we don't mean that here, ha 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 ha. The woman shouted in a familiar way before she realized it, and looked at her son cautiously. Ruan King Mu didn't react at all, and didn't have the expression of disgust in the past, but looked as usual, entered the room, and sniffed. Any sweet and sour pork ribs? This is a set of residential buildings facing the street. Every household has ripped off the balconies on the first floor and opened up to face the street. There are breakfast stalls, canteens, hardware stores, and Ruan King Mu this family opened a small massage shop. The fried shredded pork is refreshing, the eggplant and chicken sauce is neatly arranged, and the fried broccoli is green in color. It's all Ruan King Mu's craftsmanship. There was also a man sitting at the table, very young, with white pupils. When he heard Ruan King Mu's voice, he raised his head to say hello, Xiao Mu is back. The direction of the line of sight is roughly correct, but the angle is wrong, obviously the eyes are blind. Ruan King Mu sat down, picked up chopsticks, took a piece of sweet and sour steak, and put it in her mouth. Well, it's delicious. My mother drew a basin of cold water from the kitchen in the back and brought it over. My face is covered in sweat, and I eat without washing. Ruan King Mu had inconvenience in her legs and feet, and was not pretentious, so she wiped her face with the basin of water. The sweaty face is refreshed, the lips are red and the teeth are white, and the eyes are clear. He picked his forehead and wet his hair, smiled and said, "Thank you, Mom." As soon as these words came out, Mother Mu Wanli and technician Xiao Zhang were a little stunned. Ruan King Mu sighed in her heart. Of course he knew why. The original owner of this body is a single-parent family, and his mother Mu Wanli raised him, which can be called hard work. But in Ruan King Mu's eyes, the playful eyes of the man who came in and out of the house, the neighbor's playful eyes, was undoubtedly enough to overwhelm an introverted half-old child. In my memory, the original body was extremely emotionally unstable. She often cried secretly in the middle of the night. She was full of resentment towards her mother's job, yes, the job that raised him. Before the car accident, the original boy hadn't called Mom for a long time, let alone such a gentle and well-behaved thank you. While eating, Ruan King Mu helped Mu Wanli with a small steak. Mom, you can eat too. Mu Wanli looked at her son suspiciously, and quickly blocked, come away, I don't like to eat this, it's not that you don't know. We had a history class last semester. Ruan King Mu's cheeks were bulging. The teacher told us that when the price of pork soared in the Ming dynasty, pork rose by 400%, which is much more valuable than it is now. His voice was vague. Our teacher likes to talk nonsense, and she also said that her family has been buying less pork recently. She bought some spare ribs, but she was willing to give it to her children. Mu Wanli's hands froze completely, staring blankly at the ribs in the bowl. She lowered her head suddenly, turned and walked quickly towards the back kitchen, her voice trembling a little, look at my memory, I forgot, put the soup out. Xiao Zhang turned his head hesitantly, his pale white eyes were out of focus, he wanted to say something, but stopped again. Ruan King Mu turned to look at a massage room behind, is Sister Yun still working? Xiao Zhang came back to his senses, well, the old Li from the third building is here, and Xiao Yun is doing it. It's coming, there are still 20 minutes. 38 yuan for a full body massage, usually an hour. Price. The people who come here are also old neighbors who are familiar with the road nearby. Ruan King Mu's chopsticks stopped slightly, speeding up her meal. After 3 or 2 finished cooking, she turned around and opened the curtain of the massage room. The house is a small room with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. The 2 houses have been opened up as massage rooms, and there are 3 massage beds in them. In the summer, of course, the air conditioner is turned on in the massage room, but the room is not sunny, the light is not good, and it looks a bit dark. In addition to the smoke inside, it is even more difficult to see. The bald old man with the big belly was lying on his back with his eyes closed, and a slender young girl was standing beside him, concentrating on helping him press his temples. Uncle Li, turn around, I'll press your back. The girl said softly. The old man responded, and when he turned over, his hand touched the thigh of the young girl. Ruan King Mu walked over quietly, reached out and grabbed the young girl's hand, and lowered her voice in her ear, Sister Xiaoyun, you go to dinner, I'll replace you. The blind girl was startled, but Ruan King Mu gently covered her mouth. Quietly pushed her out the door. Ruan King Mu stood by the massage table, looked down, and slowly began to press on the chubby back. The old man was pressed into a drowsy state, completely unaware of the change, and hummed in a daze. Reach out to the side. At this moment, Ruan King Mu moved. He grabbed the wrist neatly, he lifted it up sharply, the man's arm was twisted behind his back, and only heard a click sound. In a sudden exclamation, Ruan King Mu bent down and said casually, I'm sorry, I'm stronger than Sister Yun. Twisted the man's arm slightly, he heard another scream with satisfaction, and the voice was surprised, oh, dislocated. The voice alarmed the people outside. Mother Mu Wanli hurriedly opened the curtain and came in, hurriedly helping the old man, oh, Uncle Li, what's the matter, what's wrong? Lao Li was helped by her to the dislocated arm, screaming like a pig, ah, ah. Your son, he beat people. Ruan King Mu shrugged at Mu Wanli, it's just not careful. Don't worry, it's all right. Before a few people could react, he suddenly grabbed the man's arm, twisted it again and again, and followed by another tragic howl from old Li. Ruan King Mu grinned, look, all right. Old Li was covered in sweat, his neck stiffened, he moved his arms up and down, left and right, sure enough, okay? As soon as Ruan King Mu stretched out her hand, she grabbed his wrist and twisted again, Uncle Li, be careful, don't twist it again. In the dark room, he bared his teeth and smiled at Lao Li, maybe it will really break next time. You. He stuttered, his chubby body shrank back, and turned to look at Mu Wanli, look at your son. Mu Wanli glanced at her son hurriedly, and quickly burst into a smile, oh, don't be as knowledgeable as a child. She grabbed a 100 yuan bill and shoved it into Lao Li's hand. I'm sorry, today's money doesn't count, you can use this 100 yuan to buy a braised vegetable. Old Li scolded, and as he walked out, he muttered, unfortunate, never come again. Ruan King Mu followed him out, watching him go out, and suddenly shouted loudly, don't come again, come and fight once. Old Li was angry, and called out, bah, you are a little with no hair, you know a fart. You should ask Xiaoyun if she wants me to come. Before Ruan King Mu could reply, Mu Wanli jumped up. Grabbing the fly swatter on the table, she stepped out the door, chased Lao Li and hit, you immortal, try to scold again. My son can also be scolded by you. Lao Li was beaten by her fly swatter, you crazy woman, the little one is crazy, and the old one is crazy too. Old Li grabbed his neck, fart, I'm sitting upright. Mu Wanli sneered and grabbed Lao Li's pocket, reached out and grabbed 100 yuan, go away for the old lady. I don't want to give you a face, and you are still screeching. Old Li was furious, but he didn't dare to fight with her. He ran to the distance and shouted at the room, Xiaoyun, next time this little is away, I'll come again. Mu Wanli came back with her hands on her hips, panting and ruffled her hair, and handed 100 yuan to Xiaoyun, here it is for you, that immortal massage fee. Xiaoyun shook her head and said in a low voice, he didn't give any money. Mu Wanli couldn't help but shoved it to her, take it, you will take it. While talking, several people came in at the door. A man in his 30s was in front, followed by 2 yellow-haired boys, all wearing only vests and slippers. The man headed by the man was hardcover and tough, wearing a pair of ripped jeans, and his bare arms were densely covered with tattoos, the left blue dragon and the right white tiger, with hideous patterns. Why is Sister Li angry? It's such a hot day. He asked with a smile. Mu Wanli replied angrily, it's okay, that Lao Li ate a bear's heart and a leopard's gall, dared to scold my son, and was beaten out by me. The flower-armed man, headed by him, glanced at Ruan King Mu, suddenly tilted his head suspiciously, and said nothing. Strange, this kid from Sister Mu's family turned around and left as if he had seen his enemy when he saw him coming. Mu Wanli looked at the 3 of them, do you want to press? Then go in and lie down. Several men responded, the 2 yellow-haired men entered a room, and the man with flower arms had his own room. The man with flower arms was sitting beside the bed, unbuttoned his belt, and was taking off his pants when he heard a dark and cold sneer behind him. Don't take it off, the air conditioner is on, I'm afraid you will catch a cold. The flower-armed man was startled and hurriedly picked up his pants, you, what are you doing here? Ruan King Mu closed the door and locked it with her backhand. Mu Wanli started knocking on the door outside, a little anxious, Twilight? How did you get in? Ruan King Mu called through the crack of the door, Mom, you've been tired all day, I'll take care of you for a while. No matter what Mu Wanli called outside, he just ignored it and raised his chin at the flower-armed man, don't lie down yet. The flower-armed man squinted at him, raised his pants and lay down. Will this kid press it? He was wearing trousers and was sweating on a hot day, how could he be so awkward? Ruan King Mu sat beside the bed and picked up a towel. Slowly, he shook the towel and straightened it. Then, he suddenly covered the man's mouth and nose, and pressed it down heavily. The flower-armed man immediately had difficulty breathing in his mouth and nose, and was so frightened that as soon as his arm was propped up, he wanted to struggle to get up. Strongly suppressed his upper body. Listen, don't try to hit my mother in the future. He bent down and said in a low voice, the boy's delicate eyebrows were full of anger that did not match his age, if you dare to bully her, I can abolish you, believe it or not. The author has something to say, don't be afraid. There are not so many bad people anymore, the little master just came over, everyone is bad, this is a society ruled by law. The flower-armed man was covered with a flushed face, and his muscular and knotted arms waved a few times, but he didn't dare to hit Ruan King Mu. His big copper bell-like eyes stared at Ruan Qing. Twilight shouted vaguely, "Let go of me." Ruan King Mu looked at him coldly and finally let go. "Piss out." Ruan King Mu smiled, threw down the towel, and opened the small drawer in front of the bed, and put some sterile towels for massage and disposable water cups in it. He reached out and grabbed a small pair of scissors next to him, weighed it, and threw it with his backhand. "Fuck. You can do it." Ruan King Mu crossed her arms, brought her face close, and looked at him carefully. "Are you not afraid? Do the pipes go back and forth?" The man with the flower arm rubbed his neck after realizing it, and he didn't feel any pain. "How come there are blood beads?" He stared blankly at the blood on his hand, and suddenly jumped up. "Are you crazy? Where did you learn these crooked ways? If you use a knife like this outside, if you really hurt someone, what should I do? What's wrong with learning? Learn from your dead ghost father." As soon as the words came out, he saw Ruan King Mu's expressionless face, and suddenly closed his mouth, and after a long while he said carefully, "My mouth is, you don't take it seriously." Ruan King Mu looked at him coolly, and after a long time, she smiled slowly, "Yes, my dad can stab people, it should be inherited." "You're a bad learner, have you ever thought about your mother?" Ruan King Mu. "Damn it! Look at this hard-working virtue." "I don't know, I thought community volunteers came to the door." "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking." Ruan King Mu lowered her eyelids impatiently. "Get away from me, my mother doesn't want to see you." "What's wrong? You're not an adult. When you go to college, your mother won't have to be a widow anymore, and then I'll propose to your mother." Ruan King Mu stretched out her foot and pointed at him, her face cold. "My mother will not marry you if she wants to marry someone." He reached out to unlock the door, he turned and walked out. "Let me go, you are not welcome here in the future." The flower-armed man hurriedly put on his shoes and ran after him. "Where did your mother find a man like me? I'm still 8 years younger than your mother, and I don't dislike it." As she was shouting, she saw Mu Wanli's face full of anger, staring at him fiercely. Her voice softened suddenly. "Hey, Sister Li, don't be angry, don't be angry, my son and I chat." Mu Wanli pushed him outward with a stern face. "Bum, my son bothers you, you should stop dangling in front of the old lady." In the next room, 2 yellow hairs also jumped out and ran out embarrassedly with the flower-armed man. The flower-armed man was pushed out of the door by Mu Wanli, not annoyed, just whispered, "Hey, Sister Li, something is wrong with your son. Just stare at him, don't tell him to learn badly, really." The small living room was quiet, and all the guests who came to the door disappeared. Mu Wanli peeked at her son and asked carefully, "I'm going to pack your school luggage." Ruan King Mu watched his mother go to the inner room, stretched out his hand and pulled Xiao Zhang to sit down. "Brother Zhang, I'm going to live on campus, and I won't be able to come back for 1 day in a week." Xiao Zhang opened his white pupils. "Well, study hard, don't worry your mother." Ruan King Mu said softly, "I only worry about you. In the future when I'm gone, you help me protect them both." He sighed, "When you can't protect it, don't be brave, just remember to tell me back." Mu Wanli took a taxi and sent her son to the gate of number 3 middle school. The school has access control at night, and outsiders are not allowed to enter and exit. The guard saw that Ruan King Mu was really inconvenient, but he was accommodating. He called the male dormitory building and asked the male administrator on duty to come and help carry luggage. "Pay attention to your body. Don't save what's delicious in the cafeteria, just buy it," she urged, cruel, and whispered, "In this life, you mother, I will never marry again. Don't think too much about it." Ruan King Mu looked at her steadily and said softly, "Mom, that's not what I meant. It is similar to this reincarnated mother. In any case, since he used this body, he has to recognize this mother and plan to take care of her for a lifetime." At this moment, a car suddenly approached the school gate, stopped silently, and a boy inside walked down. Uncle Yan followed Qin Yuan out of the car, helped take out the luggage from the trunk, looked up, and said happily, "Oh, what a coincidence! This is not the one during the day, the lame can't hit the car." Student. Qin Yuan's hand froze slightly when he went to pick up the luggage. He turned his head and saw the mother and son at the school gate at a glance. The street light at the school entrance is very bright, shining on Ruan King Mu's face in front of the guard room. Completely different from the provocation and arrogance in the daytime, the young man facing his relatives had a shallow smile on his face, his sharp eyebrows and eyes only looked delicate, and there was no hostility. Mu Wanli reached out to help her son straighten his collar, and whispered, "Get along well with your classmates and study hard." Ruan King Mu casually said, "Nonsense, Mom, don't worry, I'm easygoing, my classmates like me. This semester, I'll show you a high score." Besides, a faint light hum suddenly sounded. As soon as Ruan King Mu raised her head, her eyes instantly widened. Under the snow-white incandescent lamp, the familiar face was not far away, and a pair of black glass eyes looked at him quietly. Qin Yuan slowly dragged his suitcase and came over. "Easygoing? Do your classmates like him? Get a high score?" The ability to lie with eyes open is not small. Ruan King Mu watched him approach, and then stopped in front of him, a little surprised. He tentatively waved at Qin Yuan. Qin Yuan lowered his eyebrows and did not respond. The light of the street lamp hit his face, casting a shadow on the straight bridge of his nose. His eyes fell on the crutches at Ruan King Mu's feet. He seemed to hesitate for a few seconds, then bent down and stretched out his hand, grabbing the handle of Ruan King Mu's suitcase. Ruan King Mu looked at him dumbfounded. Suddenly, he waved at Mu Wanli energetically, "Mom, go back. Look, my classmate is here." Pointing to Qin Yuan who was standing on the side, his peach blossom eyes smiled faintly, "Number 1 in the whole grade, senior squad leader, my good buddy." Before 9 o'clock in the evening, the classrooms of Senior 3 were still brightly lit. Senior high school students start earlier and have already entered mode in advance. Today is the first day of returning to school for the second year of high school, and there is no mandatory requirement for self-study in the evening. Except for the students in the PEO class, most of the students spend the summer in the air-conditioned room of the dormitory. Qin Yuan's waist was straight, and he walked side by side with Ruan King Mu, who was leaning on crutches. Ruan King Mu tilted her head to look at him. "Student Qin, thank you." Qin Yuan was expressionless, pulling the levers of the two suitcases with both hands and moving forward silently. "Hey, are you coming to live on campus too?" Ruan King Mu was not discouraged, she still asked with a smile. Qin Yuan turned a deaf ear. "By the way, did you choose a competition class for every course?" "Hey, don't ignore people, monitor Qin. Big brother Qin. Qin Swiba." Qin Yuan turned his face slightly, his cold eyes stopped on his face. "Aren't you boring?" Ruan King Mu's eyes were innocent. "Of course it's not boring. I just like to make fun of boring people." Qin Yuan didn't speak again, and bowed his head forward. After finishing the question in the afternoon, he was idle and distracted, browsed silently in the large group that never set foot in, and vaguely pieced together a general portrait of this person. Poor grades, weak and introverted. I don't like to socialize with my classmates. I had a car accident at the end of last semester. When this semester starts, I feel a little nervous. Not only did they have inexplicable conflicts with their class 1, but after returning to their class, they dragged their disabled legs and fought with their class tyrant Lu Jun. "Hey, classmate Qin, I want to ask you something, are you really that good at fighting?" Ruan King Mu chattered behind him again. "You read books and do problems every day in your life, how did you learn to fight?" "What?" Qin Yuan gave him a cold look. "In this life. Yet, let's not talk about the past life, let's talk about it now." Ruan Qingmu's expression was sincere. Qin Yuan spit out a few words, full of nonsense. Ruan Qingmu raised her eyebrows, looked at him, and suddenly smiled. I used to know a friend who, like you, always scolds me like this. He said, but he scolds more fiercely than you. Really? Ruan Qingmu walked forward slowly, the crutches made a tutuk sound on the path, yet, all kinds of tricks, ruthless, eloquent, despicable, have been scolded. Qin Yuan could not bear to stop. Are you watching too many trash TV shows? He frowned lightly and said coldly, it's a second year in high school, why don't you hurry up and do some questions? Ruan Qingmu looked at him with a smile in her eyes, okay, but I can't, why don't you teach me? Hey, just kidding, don't be angry. Hey, you can go. It's too fast, I can't catch up. At the door of the boys' building, Uncle Joe, the dormitory, pulled the keychain, you are Ruan Qingmu. Your teacher Jane came to explain it before get off work. Yo, this leg is really lame. Ruan Qingmu leaned against the window of the dormitory room as if she was not doing anything right. Yes, it's me, where did you sign? He casually signed the registration form, turned around and waved at Qin Yuan behind him, thank you, go back to the dormitory. Qin Yuan stood in the shadow of the corridor, ignoring him, but did not let go of his suitcase. Ruan Qingmu was surprised, oh, you still have to say goodbye after 1,000 miles, why don't you leave? Qin Yuan looked at the stairs coldly and spit out, your class 9 dormitory is on the 4th floor. Ruan Qingmu looked at him and finally realized, dare to help him send the box to the 4th floor? Sure enough. The same person from the past. Uncle Joe finally found the door card, here, this is the door card, you can enter after swiping it. Here is the dormitory management manual, take a copy and take a good look at it, it is not allowed. High power electrical appliances, no open flames, no playing on mobile phones, reading novels and comics after lights out. We have spare key cards, we can check in at any time, and if we see them, they will be confiscated unconditionally. Ruan Qingmu took it over, okay. There is no empty room on the entire first floor. There is also a second-year high school student in this room, but he usually comes to live less often. You can make do with him temporarily. As soon as he looked up, he saw Qin Yuan in the shadow, oh, you are also there, just right. He beckoned to Qin Yuan, come on, this is your new roommate, I have inconvenient legs and feet, help me take care of it. Qin Yuan, Ruan Qingmu. Uncle Joe looked at Qin Yuan's sullen face, and said earnestly, I know you love tranquility, isn't this really impossible to arrange? Don't worry, at most 1 or 2 months, his legs will be fine. When the time comes, give him back to the 4th floor. The author has something to say, Mr. Qin, being attacked on the chest during the day, feels a little dangerous at night. Bai Jing and a boy rushed into the dormitory building side by side, both carrying a large plastic bag containing 7 or 8 bottles of ice coke bought for the dormitory buddies. Just as he was going up the stairs, Bai Jing suddenly stopped and stabbed the people around him, where is it? Ruan Qingmu and the boy beside him was named Huang Ye, the one who was photographed by him during the day, his face was pitted like the surface of the moon, he turned his head and looked at it and was startled, fuck, beside him is it Big Brother Qin? What are they doing? Standing face to face, not saying a word, the atmosphere is so weird, is this another fight? Big Brother Qin is a strong man who singled out a few social brothers and beat up people with blood. Bai Jing gritted his teeth, ran over, and patted Ruan Qingmu on the shoulder, ah ha ha ha, Ruan Qingmu? Are you coming to live on campus too? He hugged Ruan Qingmu affectionately, come on, I'll take you to the dormitory, which one are you in? There is an empty bed in 403 next door, is that the one? I'm in the same class, so I can't bear to see the people in my class suffer. Ruan Qingmu was almost knocked down by him, and looked at the front seat silently, I live on the first floor. Huangya also came over. Oh, I understand, your legs are not good. Then we will take you there. Where is your luggage? Ruan Qingmu raised her chin and nodded at Qin Yuan behind them. My roommate helped me hold it. Qin Yuan lowered his eyebrows, pulled 2 suitcases, turned and walked towards the corridor on the first floor. Behind him, Bai Jing covered his mouth. What? The two stared at Qin Yuan and Ruan Qingmu, who were in tandem. For a long time, Huangya asked in a trance, you said. Ruan Qingmu will be beaten to death. Bai Jing was also in a trance. No way, Mr. Qin is a calm person. Huangya took out a bottle of ice coke and opened it, and the foam splashed Lao Gao, although, what if he picks up the clothes of Big Brother Qin again? The dormitory of number 3 middle school is in very good condition and has just been renovated 2 years ago. The door key of the dormitory has been replaced with a smart card, all of which are equipped with air conditioners, toilets, and shower faucets. There is also a large cabinet near the door, which is divided into 4 storage spaces up and down for students to put clothes and personal items. Only the dormitory on the first floor is a double room. The school encourages group living. Double rooms are mainly for students with special needs. Every year in the 3rd year of high school, there are always a few neurastheniacs due to stress and need to be quiet. There are also temporary injuries like Ruan Qingmu. Inconvenient to go up and down the stairs. But in fact, there are many mosquitoes on the first floor, and sometimes the pipes are easily blocked. Most of the students are unwilling to live. Like Qin Yuan, there are also a few who take the initiative to live on the first floor. Ruan Qingmu leaned on crutches, followed Qin Yuan, and swiped her card into a dormitory. No one has lived in it for more than a month, and there is some light dust inside, but the whole house is extremely clean and orderly. One bed is empty, the other bed is flat and clean, and the pillows are placed it was upright, and the thin xiaoyang was folded into squares, just like the tofu cubes in the military camp on TV. Then put Ruan Qingmu's suitcase in front of another empty bed. Without looking at Ruan Qingmu, he opened his suitcase and began to pack his things silently. The slender youth is bent over, the shape of the back is clear, showing a neat waistline and graceful back shoulders. The muscles of the forearm are not obvious, but they bulge slightly with the movement. Under the bright fluorescent light, the skin is shining with sweat. When the box was opened, there was a neatly folded change of clothes, several sets of identical summer short-sleeved school uniforms, and toiletries in a transparent hard-shell plastic bag. Soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, towel, all beautifully arranged. Ruan Qingmu sat in front of her small table, watching his movements without saying a word, holding her cheeks. As soon as Qin Yuan raised his head, he frowned. He straightened up, put the toiletries in the bathroom, turned around and started putting things in his cupboard. Ruan Qingmu was behind him, watching him put 4 sets of summer school uniforms in the closet in one breath, and finally couldn't help but wonder, isn't there 2 sets per person, why do you have 4 sets? Qin Yuan did not look back, and replied lightly, there is no limit, you can also apply for 10 sets. Ruan Qingmu snorted. I love cleanliness so much. Qin Yuan silently packed his luggage, didn't look at Ruan Qingmu again, but went into the bathroom with a clean set of clothes. I just got out of the shower, my hair is wet, and the ends are dripping slightly. The whole face is refreshing and handsome, tisk, as cold as the iceberg hero on the posters in those costume dramas. On the floor of the room, Ruan Qingmu's box was open, and it was rummaged inside. On the upper bunk diagonally opposite, someone was busy. I don't know how to climb up with my inconvenient legs. The mat has just been made, and people are squatting on the bed, entangled in the mosquito nets that wrap their heads. Hearing the sound, Ruan Qingmu turned her head quickly, her sweaty head sticking out from the mosquito net. Hey, ask something. Qin Yuan slowly opened his school bag and began to take out textbooks and materials. Hey! Are there mosquitoes here at night? Can you not hang a mosquito net? Qin Yuan raised his head, looked at him with his legs crossed and a bitter face, stood silently for a while, stretched his long legs, and climbed onto his bed. Across the bed rail, he found the two corners of the mosquito net that Ruan Qingmu had messed up, took out the tether, and tied it neatly to the small iron hook hanging from the roof. On the other side of the bed, Ruan Qingmu was wrapped in the tent, panting and fighting. Qin Yuan watched with cold eyes, waited for half a minute, and finally couldn't bear it anymore, opened the mosquito net here, and got to the opposite side. He stretched out his hand to untie the mosquito net wrapped around Ruan Qingmu's arm, pressed his head hard, and picked him out of the mess. The mosquito net was tightly wrapped and messy. Ruan Qingmu struggled for a while, then stopped moving, lowered her eyebrows, and let him move obediently. The two were very close, their warm breaths fell on each other's faces, and their arms and bodies rubbed together. The expression on Qin Yuan's face has not changed for a long time, but I don't know if he is a little anxious, and the muscles on his forearm seem to be a little stiff. Finally, the mosquito net was finally fixed. Qin Yuan quickly helped tie the other two corners, turned over vigorously, and jumped off the bed in 2 steps. Ruan Qingmu looked down from the bed. "Hey, thank you, senior squad leader." Qin Yuan gave him a cold look, turned to pick up a few books on his desk, and went out without hesitation. Ruan Qingmu was lying on the newly laid mat, staring at the snow-white ceiling, smiling silently. Picking up the phone, he sent a text message to Mu Wanli, "I'm settled. The classmates in the same dormitory are great, especially friendly." Soon, Mu Wanli's text message replied, "That's good, rest early, you have the hawthorn pot helmet I put in your suitcase, which can be used for your stomach. By the way, remember to share it with your classmates." "What?" Ruan Qingmu climbed out of bed and rummaged through the suitcase, and sure enough, there were 2 packets of pastries, each in a separate small package. Opened, the snow-white cake was printed with a bright red moire pattern on the front. Opened it, and inside was a dark red hawthorn filling. Bite it down, sweet and sour. He ate too slowly, thought about it, picked up a few, and put them on the desk next door. A few floors away, in the male dormitory on the 4th floor, the door was closed and the lights were also turned off. From the outside, the crack of the dormitory door is dark, and there is a slight light in the corner of the door. Several mobile phones turned on their flashlights, clipped them with clothespins, hung them on the mosquito net beside them, and faced the table in the middle. A bunch of boys were fighting head-to-head with the dim light of their mobile phones. Huangya had a string of notes stuck on her face, and her upper body was stripped of her clothes. The flashlight of the mobile phone on the opposite side illuminated his pitted face. Bai Jing was typing with his mobile phone in his arms. As soon as he looked up, he turned his head and gave it to him, "Ghost." Huangya turned her head and hugged him, pressing back with a shy face, "The ghost presses the bed." The boys next to me kept urging, "Bai Xiaosheng, hurry up and help draw cards, and tell Huangya to pee, hurry up." Bai Jing struggled to get out from under Huangya and sat on the stool. "The yellow duck weighs 180 pounds now, so I almost vomit. That is, if Qin Yuan came to play cards like that, lost his clothes, took a secret photo, and sold it at a high price at the girl's place. No one wants Huangya's. Until now, the first place vote in the photo contest in the school post bar is the photo of the Class 1 university bully. As the sun sets in the west, in the golden sunlight, a tall juvenile rises into the sky. In his slender arms, the round basketball has just dropped his hand and volleyed towards the basket with the light behind his back. Black hair flutters, and the silhouette is stern. Suddenly someone burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, didn't Mr. Qin be forced to show some points today? Don't talk nonsense, there is no dew point, just show your chest." The boys let out a burst of laughter. Huangya came out of the bathroom and squeezed Bai Jing off the chair. "It's okay, you can kneel down." Bai Jing's eyes suddenly lit up and he quickly picked up his phone to type. Downstairs, Ruan Qingmu jumped and took a shower in the bathroom. As soon as she came out, the screen of the mobile phone on the table lit up, and QQ made a sound. Pick it up and take a look, Lanja Pavilion by Xiaosheng. Student Ruan, it's me, please reply when you see it. The message was sneaky, followed by an expression of bowing hands. Ruan Qingmu replied, while wiping her hair. Is Big Brother Qin by your side? Ruan Qingmu looked at the neat information on the table next door. I went to study with the book, what's up? Bai Jing made a fly rubbing his hands, showing a strange and wretched expression. Student Ruan, come and do a business. You can take a few pictures of the interior of your dormitory and give me a panoramic view. What? Bai Jing made a shy expression, cough, that. You know, Mr. Qin lives alone, and his dormitory has always been a mysterious restricted area. Bring some of his desk and bed to the mirror, $5 for a photo. Ruan Qingmu looked at her phone in shock. You want to sell his private photos? Bai Jing hurriedly denied Sanlian, don't talk nonsense, it's not me, I don't have it. You take pictures of your own dormitory, and it's not against the law to bring some big guy's beds to the camera. Dear, or else $10 apiece. After waiting for a long time, the opposite side replied lightly, the screenshot is taken, and I will pass it to the party later. Bai Jing, oh.